time in the market that matters.
Another question I have for you too is, even beyond MicroStrategy, how do you hold Bitcoin personally? Do you have a significant personal stack in addition to what you own through MicroStrategy and a MicroStrategy stock?
Yeah, I do have significant personal Bitcoin holdings. I think about 4 years ago, I tweeted that I have 17,732 Bitcoin. I haven't sold any Bitcoin. I continue to acquire more Bitcoin, and I think it's a great capital investment asset for an individual, a family, an institution, a corporation, or a country. And I can't see a better place to put my money.
How much do you personally own today?
At least that much.
That's a lot. 17,000 is a lot. I was talking yesterday, Michael, to a young journalist, Andrew Chow. He's written a book called Cryptomania, Hype, Hope, and the Fall of FTX's billion-dollar fintech empire. He seems more convinced by Ethereum and the proof of stake method because he's so concerned about the climate and the environment. And a lot of younger people see it this way, that proof of work just takes too much power and is bad for the world. How do you respond to those concerns?
There are hundreds of thousands of investments that people can make, and I don't opine on any particular real estate, equity, or crypto investment. Bitcoin is special because it is literally the most powerful computer network in the world. It's the most powerful. It's got the most electrical power. It's got the most computer power. It's got the most economic power. It's got the most political power. The fact that it runs on 17 gigawatts or more of electricity means it's got more power than the United States Navy. That makes it nation-state resistant and nuclear hardened. So my view is, if you're going to put away billions of dollars for decades, you're going to want a very powerful crypto network to defend it. And there really is no second best.
But it sounds like that much power generation is going to lead to, a higher global temperature, melting ice caps and rising seas. Like, when can it get carbon neutral?
That's a silly observation. People have been saying that for 5 years. Bitcoin's not boiling the ocean. It's like 10, 15 basis points of the world's energy usage. So it's de minimis compared to everything else. 30% of the energy in the world is wasted from some other source. So it's just guerrilla marketing, and I think largely irrelevant and debunked at this point in time.
Michael, one thing I'm wondering about is, have you spoken to former President Trump? He's been talking about this idea of what it would look like for the U.S. to have a reserve of Bitcoin. Of course, the U.S. holds some Bitcoin through Bitcoin that has been seized. But what do you think about this broader idea more largely? Have you spoken to the former president about it? I know you have.
The future is digital. There's a race to own cyberspace. And we saw an entire set of politicians waking up to this. Senator Lummis has offered the strategic Bitcoin reserve legislation, and that's our Louisiana Purchase moment. Donald Trump has said, we won't sell our Bitcoin. And that makes BTC the apex property of the United States. The only thing that the nation won't sell are its national parks, its nuclear weapons, and it's Bitcoin. I think that the conversation has shifted, and every politician in the world is starting to realize that Bitcoin's the most desirable property in cyberspace. It's the future.
Back in 2013, Michael, when Bitcoin was marching up towards 1,000, we started reporting on it for the first time, and I actually spent 2 weeks living only on Bitcoin, using it to buy gas and beers at a bar down here and groceries at a place in Greenpoint. I bought my first one for $800, my second one for $600, and now I wish I hadn't spent them. Is there going to be a time when we actually use Bitcoin as a transactional, currency without regretting it so much later on?
I think if your grandfather owned a building in the middle of Manhattan and they sold it to buy a cup of coffee or some ice cream, you would have regretted that too. Yeah. Half of the wealth in the world is just long-term capital. Call it $400 or $500 trillion. People just want to keep their wealth. They want to hold their money for decades or generations. Bitcoin is capital. And if you think of it as capital, the most desirable capital in cyberspace, then the right way to consider it is the same way as if your family owned a sports team or a trophy asset or a Da Vinci painting or a building or all the land in Palm Beach. You would hold it as long as you possibly could. You would finance it, and you want to buy a cup of coffee with it, borrow some money from a bank, spend dollars, spend pesos, spend euros, but keep the most desirable property in the universe.
All right, Michael, thanks so much for joining us. Michael Saylor is Microstrategy Executive Chairman and co-founder. He owns at least 17,000 Bitcoin. And of course, Microstrategy always continues to add to its giant Bitcoin pile. We have some breaking news now, updates on efforts for an Israel-Hamas ceasefire. U.S. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby is